Welcome back to an emergency episode, last minute episode on a Friday night. Hope you all are having a great start to your weekend. A lot of news has came out in the last 10 hours, 24 hours, if you want to count the calendar, which we will talk about on the back half of this stream. But hope you guys are having a great Friday night. It's 9 o'clock on the East Coast, 6 o'clock on the West Coast. A lot to talk about, exciting things, some disappointing things. But I thought it was something interesting to talk about Messi possibly signing his extension and David Ornstein talking about this. We're going to discuss this, what this means for the league. Obviously, we're going to talk about the calendar, which has been a hotly debated topic. And if you guys have any questions, or I also want to know what you guys think about the calendar since we're doing this live, see if you guys agree or disagree with the change. But before we get into that, make sure you like this video down below. It helps us with the algorithm. It helps grow the conversation. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We are like 34 subscribers from 6,500. We've been absolutely blowing up lately with our other videos. So we're getting closer and closer. We're going to try to hit 7,000 before the end of the month. I think we got a really good chance of hitting 7K before the end of April. So subscribe if you haven't already and hit the little bell notification so you never miss a video. Okay, so let's get into this report about Messi and re-signing with Inter Miami. So David Ornstein reported today that Inter Miami is close to an agreement with Lionel Messi over a contract extension. Existing deal expires at the end of the 2025 season, and they're working on an ongoing to finalize terms, but talks have advanced, and they are expected to sign soon. Would see the 37-year-old lead Inter Miami to the new stadium in 2026. Now, I've heard that Messi is likely to play until 2027, but this is 2026. But there was never a doubt that Messi would play in the new Inter Miami Stadium. That was always the goal. That would have been a huge miss if Messi hadn't played for Inter Miami during the World Cup and didn't play in the new Inter Miami Stadium. That was always going to happen. So this isn't a shock to me. Now there was some speculation on if Messi was how long his deal was from the start. Like, was it through 2026? Was there a club option for 2026? Was it 2.5 years plus one? Honestly, it's kind of crazy to think this is already his technically third season in MLS, but he's only played 2.5 years, and I don't think they really capitalized on him as much as you would want, especially considering his stature of who he is and bringing him to the league in this market. It's just crazy. It's flown by like that, and you haven't seen a crazy, not due to him, but just not a crazy growth with having him in the league as much as you think you would. But either way, he will be here, it looks like, at least in 2026 and likely in 2027. And this is very important because if Messi hadn't have stayed in MLS in 2026, let's say he retired or he wanted to go back to Argentina and play for his childhood club, Newell Old Boys, that would have been a disaster for MLS. They've put all their eggs into the Messi basket. They need him to play for Inter Miami. They need him to be in the league. He is their biggest selling point thus far. And the reason why a lot of people have I don't want to say everybody, but he is the big reason why people are giving the league attention that haven't given the league attention before. So losing him would be detrimental to the team, the league, everybody involved. But it seems like Messi is happy in MLS. He's happy in America. And it's funny because when he played at PSG, there was obviously the debate on would he re-sign with them? Would he go to Saudi Arabia? Would he come back to MLS or go back to Barca? And you could just tell he was miserable in PSG the whole entire time. He was not happy when he played for PSG, but he is happy here. It looks like it's going to be a seamless, no drama extension. And I think this is the happiest he's been since he, was at Barcelona years ago. So it looks like Messi will likely retire as an Inter Miami player. That's good for the league. And we see that he's still good. He's still one of the best players in the league. Not even the best players in the league, best players in the world. He's arguably the best player in the world still when you see what he's doing at 37 years old. So he still has several years left. A player of his quality doesn't go away. Like the quality doesn't go away that like he ages very, very well. So having him back is crucial, and they're going to sell him like crazy in 2026. His face is going to be everywhere in 2026 as it should be, right? He is the brand of MLS. Like MLS and Messi are like this. They're attached to the hip at this point. Obviously Messi's bigger than MLS, but I'm saying MLS needs him. It really is Messi League soccer from a branding standpoint. You see that with Apple and everything that, and as many times as they mention him. So getting him re-signed is a big deal. I think that like I said, it's crucial, and I'm not surprised. I'd like to know what you guys think. How big of a deal do you think it is that Messi is just going to re-sign? No drama, no decision, no. Will he? Won't he? Like it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. He will re-sign with Inter Miami. And I'm just glad that there is no drama with this because it would be just devastating for MLS. I'll be interested to see who replaces him when he inevitably retires in a couple years. But my guess is Messi will play in 2026. He'll open the stadium next summer, and he will probably have a contract option for 2027, and he probably will play for Inter Miami in 2027 and retire after around when he's 40. And Jorge Mas said that today, which we knew this for a while, that Messi is a business partner of David Beckham, of Jorge Mas, of Jose Mas. He is going to be part of the ownership group once he retires. So he has a sweet deal. When he's done playing, he's going to seamlessly transition to the ownership group. And this is good news for the league. Have to capitalize. And I'm not surprised. I like I said, I don't know if you guys are surprised, but this is a big deal. I will be curious to see if he gets a pay raise because obviously he knows the leverage he has. Now, there was a report that he was making around $50 million a year when he first signed, plus Apple TV revenue split, like maybe like 2 or 3% of what the revenue share is of the Apple TV deal. But they had it reported with the MLS Players Association that he was only making like $20 million a year. I don't buy that. I think that he's definitely making more than $20 million. Messi would never just come for $20 million. It doesn't even matter if they're subsidizing ads or sponsorships, whatever it may be. He would definitely. There's no way he's only making $20 million a year. Franco says, "How long is Suarez's contract?" This is his last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think he signed a 1-year deal. I don't think if you watched him play this year, I don't think he's got more than 1 year left in him. Like that's it. He's got one more in him. That's it. After this, he will retire most likely, and he will set off into the sunset, and hopefully he will be able to walk for the rest of his life. His knees are in very bad condition, but yeah, I think he's only got 1 year left on his deal. So, and there was the rumors today about Angel Di Maria from a small account that his agent wanted to try to get him to Miami. I personally don't buy that. I don't think that's going to happen, but I could be wrong. I think that he will. I don't think they have their eyes on Di Maria. I think they have their eyes on Kevin De Bruyne. So I think that that's who they would be going for, not Angel Di Maria. Now, if Angel Di Maria is going to sign for a sweetheart deal, right, something very, very cheap, then yes, maybe he would be a Inter Miami player. But I don't put much stock into that. I think that it's more likely that they will go for Kevin De Bruyne. Angel Di Maria, they don't really need him. I mean, he's good, obviously, but they have too many players in those positions. It would be a waste. They need midfield help and help on the back line. Franco says, "Yeah, I agree. Hope De Bruyne comes in for him, and a young striker goes to play with Leo." They did sign a young striker. They signed the young striker from Ecuador, Barcelona SC. Names escape me right now, but they just signed a young striker on loan, so they do have one. So they will let him buy out club shares like 5 to 10%, just guess. So I don't think that he has to buy anything. They're just going to give it to him. They're going to give a portion of their ownership to him. Now, I don't know how that legally works because I don't know if you have to buy. Yeah, Obando, that's who it was. I don't know if you have to legally. There has to be a transaction, maybe buy it for $1 or whatever. But they're going to give him a share of the club when he retires. Messi. So that's the front. That's the update on Messi and his contract. He will be here in 2026, according to David, and that's good news for the league. They couldn't afford to lose him. Now let's transition to something that's getting people very, very upset, and I'm going to be very curious to see what you guys think about this. You saw the video I just made about it. It gets people really, really riled up. Either you love it or you hate it. There's not really any in between, but it's the current MLS schedule and the Euro calendar that has been proposed. Now, MLS recently they had a governor's meeting where they voted if they wanted to change this by the World Cup or after the World Cup in 2026, so that way that the season would start right after the World Cup ended. And it didn't, I wouldn't say it failed, but they voted to delay it. They voted to delay it, and they're going to do some more research on it and see if it would be viable for 2027, which I think is a mistake because you'd want to capitalize, after the 2026 World Cup. And Davey says, "Yo, why are people having a meltdown over this?" Yeah, it really doesn't make any sense to me, because if you look at the schedule, their argument about the weather doesn't make sense because it's essentially the same. It's just scheduled differently. Like, this isn't a radical change weather-wise to the schedule. I'm not really I don't understand why people can't get this through their brain of this isn't that crazy of a difference. Saying like, we can't have cold games in Minnesota. We can't have cold games in Ohio. It's like you're already playing in the cold. You already are playing in the cold. So like, you're taking a winter break, which we'll get into this in a second. They've got a blockage. They're not thinking about it. Like, they're just so angry. They're not really thinking about it rationally. They're just don't want to change it because it's what they're used to. They don't like change. But the pros outweigh the cons 100%. Davey says we're going to have home openers in the summer. Not gonna lie, that's pretty cool in my opinion. Yeah, and also too, I think it would be better to capitalize. The Premier League, when it starts up every year, or La Liga, there's always this hype and excitement. And wouldn't it be cool if that was like the same for MLS? You had the Premier League and MLS hype at the same time to make it like a soccer tradition of like, yeah, the season starts for the Premier League today, and it also starts for MLS today. Like, it's a whole day event. Both leagues start at the same time. That would be cool, and it'd be a cool promotion. And starting in the middle of February is just kind of, there's not really anything going on. It's the Super Bowl, it just ends. I just think it's in the European leagues only have a couple months left. Just kind of an awkward starting period for the league. But anyway, so right now, as it currently stands, MLS starts in mid-February. And there was a guy that was trying to say that it doesn't start in mid-February. It's like one day off. It's February 21st, okay? It's when MLS season starts. They have a summer break because of Leagues Cup from late July to late August, which is funny because everybody talks about the summer soccer tradition, and they don't even have regular season games for an entire month in MLS. They don't have regular season games for an entire month in MLS in the summer. Late July, late August. Leagues Cup is not the regular season. It doesn't count. Okay? So there you go. One whole month, teams not playing. Then the season ends in October for non-playoff teams, and December for the MLS Cup final. So think about this for a second. February to October is 8 months. Okay? 8 months. You take a month break because of Leagues Cup, right? So that means that non-playoff teams only play soccer for 7 months in a season. 7 months. What other league in the world, Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, you name it, which of those leagues only play 7 months in a year? How can you be off for 5 months? 5 months without regular season matches. You're off from October until February. And then you have the break in the summer. 4 months consecutive without any regular season matches. It's the only league, top 10 league, top 15 league in the world that does this. 4 months off. That's another reason why you have to change the schedule, because of that. Okay. And then we talk about the transfer window. The primary transfer window for MLS is in the winter. That's the secondary transfer window for the big leagues. So when we try to do business with these other leagues, they're not willing to sell their best players because they don't want to lose them halfway through the season. And then when you're trying to buy certain players halfway through the season, it's kind of hard to sell them because a lot of teams aren't really in the market to spend huge money in the winter. It's always done in the summer. So MLS mostly does their business, their big signings in the summer halfway through the season, which is annoying because some teams will sell their best player in the middle of the season and it tanks their season or it just screws things up. It would be better to have it on the same calendar because that way you would be able to have your transfer windows line up perfectly. So that's another big thing of why it's important. And this is another thing I see people, and we're going to talk about the Euro calendar here in a second, but another thing that really bothers me too that people need to understand is that during these tournaments, right? Copa America, Euros, World Cup, Gold Cup, whatever it may be, okay? Which happens 2 to 3 times in every 4 years, okay? Or 2 or 3 of the 4 years is what I should say. A lot of key players are missing. So let me dive into that a little bit more, okay? So Messi played for Argentina last summer, right? And he was going to miss like 6 games because of Argentina, because of the national team. So he didn't play most of the summer for Inter Miami. Complete dud. Didn't play. That's detrimental to the league because your star of your league is not playing a single match in the summer because of an international tournament. Okay? He got hurt during the international tournament and he didn't play a single match in the League's Cup. So he didn't play any games in the summer. Maybe he played 1 game in June before they went to Argentina. Maybe he played 1 game. But he probably missed 90% of MLS games in the summer, and he didn't play any games in League's Cup. And Suarez didn't play probably 5 to 6 games. Diego Gomez didn't play 5 to 6 games. I'm just using Inter Miami as one team as an example. But these key players aren't playing in the summer because they have international duty. So you're talking about your league playing against international tournaments, right? You're competing against those. So the interest is lowered a little bit. Your best players aren't playing, so your quality went down. So you have a lower quality, and you also have competition of another big soccer tournament that's going to draw eyes away from your league. That's why I'm so against playing in the summer, or at least not. I'm not against playing in early August. I'm against playing in middle of June and all of July because that's when the tournaments are on. And you really don't want to be playing during those tournaments because you're an afterthought, okay? You want those to be international breaks, summer breaks, so that way that your players play and they're not missing any time from your team. I'm going to get to the Europeans calendar that they're proposing in a second, but let me just read some comments. Kesar says, break until early February. It's too long. Mid to end January better. 1 month break is enough. Yeah, I agree. Nightmare says, why people are against this proposal. They say that it's going to, that the games are going to be miserable because it's going to be too cold. But what doesn't make any sense is that it's already the same. It's just lined up more favorably to the breaks and to the transfer window. People say we can't play in February. That's one of the arguments. They're already playing in February. People say we can't play in March. They're already playing in March. People say they'll freeze, that they can't do it, but they're already playing in these months. People say that they can't play in December. Well, the proposal that MLS had is a winter break from mid-December until the beginning of February. Like the first week of February, they would start back up. So anytime you bring every time you bring this up to them, they never respond or they just completely ignore what you're saying. And it's very frustrating, obviously, because a lot of these people just aren't even listening to your arguments. They're just saying they can't play in the cold, even though they're doing it right now. And then when you say that, and even if they do acknowledge it, they'll say, yeah, but it's miserable. It's like, okay, but you're doing it right now. And then when I bring up the point about the NFL playing in these months, right? November, December, some teams in January, people will say, yeah, but it's the NFL. They have tradition. It's like, okay, so you're saying MLS is irrelevant? Like you're saying people don't care about MLS enough to go to games? Their rebuttal is, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, NFL has tradition. People are used to it. And I'm just like, okay, there's people that are fans of both teams. Like Cincinnati fans, I guarantee you some of these Cincinnati fans, because that's one of the fan bases that were very vocal against this move. Are you telling me Cincinnati fans don't go to Bengals games in November or December? I bet they do. I bet they do go to games in these Cincinnati games. And here's another thing too: the FC Cincinnati Stadium has a 25,000 seat capacity. The Bengals Stadium is 65,000 seats. So you're only having to fill up. You're having to fill up a stadium that has 40,000 less seats. That's not. Is that too hard? And also, the game is 2 hours shorter. An NFL game, I don't know how many of you guys have been to an NFL game before, but an NFL game, you're probably at the stadium for 3.5 or 4 hours. When you're at an MLS game, it's probably about 2 hours, 2.5 max. So you're asking more people in the NFL to go to a cold game, 65,000, and you're also asking them to stay longer, 3.5 to 4 hours. I just find it very hard to believe that even if they did have to play one cold game in early February, which most of these teams would probably play on the road early on in the season, but we'll get to that in a little bit. If they had to play one cold game in February, you don't think you could fill up 20,000? You couldn't get 20,000 people to show up? I find that very, very hard to believe. Eduardo says it would also make us more competitive in CONCACAF Champions Cup since MLS teams are always in preseason when it kicks off. Exactly. It would be more beneficial to MLS if they line this up, because they would be on the same schedule as Liga MX. 100% agree with you. Yeah, that's another point. That was another point of why MLS really struggled. And also, too, we're going to get into the Euro calendar, I promise. But people always just disregard how dangerous it is to play in Texas or Florida, some of these southern states in the summer. Like it is statistically more dangerous to play in the exhausting heat than it is to play in the cold. Sure, you can get frostbite in a rare circumstance, right? But you can also get a heat stroke in very hot weather. You can't get a cold stroke. You can bundle up and warm yourself up with hot hands, with jacket, with layers. There's no really way to cool yourself down outside. Drinking water, shedding some layers, it's not going to cool you down. You can bundle up in cold weather. You can't do anything to really combat hot weather, hot climate. Okay, so let's get into the Euro calendar. Let's talk about this, okay? And I want to let me know, but like down below, we got 50 of you in the chat right now. Also, make sure you like this down below if you haven't already. It helps us out. Like this video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the little bell notification so you never miss a video. We are 34 subscribers away from 6,500. Let's hit that soon, and let's hit 7K before the end of April. Okay, let me know down below if you want the schedule to change or if you want it to stay the same. But we're going to get into the Euro calendar because that's what Angel asked. What's the Euro calendar? Okay. So the Euro calendar is from August to May. That's the Euro calendar. So in this proposal, MLS would start their season at the beginning of August. Okay. So it's technically still the summer. You guys would have August to go to games. Okay. And then they would play all the way through until middle of December, because that's when it starts to get really cold. November is not that bad. It's chilly, but it's not unbearable. And then they would take a break until the beginning of February. Now, statistically, January is the coldest month in the United States and in Canada. It's the coldest month. January is the coldest month in both countries. So they would take a break until the beginning of February. And also, another league that does this is Germany. They take like a 4 or 5 week break in the winter because it's cold. It's not unheard of. And then in the end, they would start back up in early February. And then the end of the season, the regular season would be May 1st. And then the playoffs would be the entire month of May. And then the MLS Cup final would be June 1st or the first Saturday of June every single year. That would be my proposal. Regular season ends May 1st, and then the MLS Cup final will be June 1st or the first Saturday of every year. And with this proposal, the teams who don't make the playoffs would only have 2 months off, 2.5 months off. Okay. Instead of 4 months off. And the MLS Cup winners, which is only going to be, the two teams playing in the MLS Cup final, they would have 6 to 7 weeks off, 6 weeks off, which is normal. I mean, that's what they do in the Premier League. So this would keep our players sharper, in better form, more fit. I mean, people don't talk enough about how bad it is for a team, players, to not play for 4 months. Non-playoff teams not playing a competitive match from October till February is really, really bad. That's really, really bad. That's a long time to not play any games. That makes you very rusty. That's like I said, it's one of the only leagues in the world, one of the top leagues that has a break that long. It's not good to keep players in form and have sharpness and have the best quality. So this would help that also. And another important point is that we wouldn't be competing with the World Cup, the Club World Cup. And that's another thing this year. Think about the Club World Cup. The Club World Cup is going to be 1 month this summer. And look, I love this league. I'm just being honest. You're going to get an honest assessment from me. When the Club World Cup is on, people are going to be all in on that. They're not going to be watching MLS as closely as there's not going to be as much enthusiasm at that point. They're going to be watching Inter Miami and Seattle and see what they do, but they're going to be watching this tournament and seeing what happens. It's going to hurt the momentum. But you see, if we didn't have the season in the summer, we wouldn't have to worry about it. We wouldn't have to worry about the Club World Cup, the FIFA World Cup, Euros, Gold Cup, Copa America, CONMEBOL, whatever it may be. You wouldn't have to worry about any of it. It'd be the break for everybody in the summer. So I think this would be better just all around. It just makes too much sense. And look, I'll acknowledge that it would be more difficult to do this 10 years ago because we didn't have as many teams in the South, warmer climates, right? But we do now. There's like 7, 8, 9 teams. I think there's 7 teams in the South now, and there's a couple extra teams in the West Coast. So geographically, you can make it work. If you had to, you could play some winter games. If it's so cold in the beginning of February, have these cold climate teams play on the road for 3 weeks. And then the next month in March, have them play 3 games at home. There's ways to work around this. It's not it's not impossible. So let's see. Tony Sanchez of San Diego Football. How's it going, my friend? He says San Diego Loyal in their last year was the club team that traveled the most miles in the calendar year. It's going to be interesting to see how San Diego FC manages this. Tony, what do you think about the schedule change? So obviously you're on the West Coast, you're in San Diego, but which one would you prefer? Because I know that you're a Liga MX fan as well, and this Euro calendar would be similar to what they do with the Clausura and Apertura schedule if you combine both leagues or titles. Where do you stand on the Euro calendar proposal? Are you in favor of the current schedule or the former or the proposed schedule? Let's read some other comments. Casey says, bro, look, at the schedule Leagues Cup starts July 31st, and MLS games start back August the 10th. It does I think this year they're doing it a little different, but in years past, MLS teams weren't playing until like the very end of August. The whole month was essentially dedicated to Leagues Cup. The whole month was dedicated to Leagues Cup, and that could change again. But either way, you're talking about a 2-week break. And then also, too, keep in mind, they take a 2-week break during the MLS Cup playoffs. You have all this momentum where, fans are excited about their team advancing, moving on to the next round, and then you take a 2-week break before you get to the semifinals because of the international break, if I'm not mistaken. So there's just it just really doesn't work if you want to compete and be one of the top leagues. Also, too, keep this in mind. Remember what I said. If you don't make the playoffs, your team only plays 7 months of the year. 7 months. Most leagues play 9 to 10. It's hard to convince a top player to come to your league if they're only playing 7 months a year. Now, they could make the playoffs and they'll play maybe 8 to 8.5 months. But you want to keep these players sharp because they want to play for their national team. That's the goal for every player. They want to play for their national team. So you need to do every strategical advantage you can have to get these players to have these players sharp and give them the best chance to play for their national team and have them in form. Tony says Euro calendar needs to be adopted. It's not only good for entertainment purposes and revenue, but also it will make soccer in this country better. I agree, man. I agree 100% because there's just too much of a break and it makes it too, it's just awkward. It's awkward. And look, Tony, look, I know that there's a lot of friendly banter about Liga MX and MLS, right? But I think even you would acknowledge that if a team is playing or coming out of their preseason and playing in the Champions League, the team that's like close to the end of their season, Liga MX, full form, are going to have an advantage. So it would be nice to have them at the same time. It would give them, I think MLS would have performed better in years past if they weren't in their preseason when they were playing in these tournaments. Wookie says, good idea. So are you saying that, so you agree the Euro calendar is a good idea? And you say it's a better idea too. I don't understand some there. And here's another thing too. We have to do certain things different because the league it's not where it needs to be, right? And we're getting there. It's growing. Obviously it is growing, but we need to do things, adopt things that's going and adapt to make the league better. And I think having a calendar like this would make it better. It would make it better. So I think that they need to do something like this that could increase the interest and help it a lot. Don't have games played where people have no interest in watching. And this is another thing that's important that I have to mention. I forgot to mention this earlier. You don't want the playoffs. Now, I don't care what anyone says. The playoffs are the most important part of the season. They are. This is going to decide who the champion of your league is. The MLS Cup playoffs decides who the champion of your league is, okay? Why would you want your playoffs October till December to be played during the NFL and college football season? You want your most important part of your season to be played at the same time as the NFL and college football? Or would you rather your most important part of the season may be played May 1st through June 1st, which is only going to compete with the NBA and hockey? I would much rather go against the NBA and hockey than the NFL and college football. It was reported that the numbers for the New York Red Bulls and the LA Galaxy game were terrible. The MLS Cup final, it was like 400K thousand people watched. And I would love to think that number would have been higher. First of all, if it wasn't behind a paywall. And second of all, if it was played on June the 1st. Imagine this. This is another thing too. This is like this would be a smart idea for the league. Make it a tradition that every MLS Cup is played the same day as the UEFA Champions League final. So that's played earlier in the day, and the MLS Cup final is played at night every year. It's a big soccer day. The champions of Europe, the champions of MLS, same day. That would be great marketing, very strategic, and I think that would be a smart way to make it an eventful day for soccer fans, right? I think that that's the way to do it. You do not want your playoffs. I cannot repeat this enough. You do not want your playoffs to be played during the NFL and college football season. You don't want that to happen. You want to be played against the NHL and NBA. That's what you want to compete against. Jose, member of the channel, says, cheers from Seattle. Just getting on. Appreciate you for stopping by. He says, I like that idea. I think it would be a good marketing ploy and smart. Davey says, NBA numbers keep going down to people aren't as interested in watching the NBA. That's another thing too. Yeah, the NBA is wounded right now. MLS has a chance. The NFL is not going anywhere. I don't want to compete with the NFL. And that's what we're doing. We're competing with the NFL. You don't want to do that. You don't want to compete with the NFL, and you don't want to compete with college football. And also, too, we talk about attendance. Most of these MLS teams have NFL teams. They have college football teams. Some people are probably not going to these games, these playoff games, because they're going to their college football and they're going to their NFL games during that time. So you want to talk about attendance being hurt? We'll talk about that. Andy says, I can't think of one positive to keeping the current schedule. There is no positive to keeping the current schedule. There's not. And people are going to say the weather, but that's not a positive because it's literally the same. It's not a radical change. But the argument I see is always the winter weather. Exactly. It's all they ever say. It's all they ever say. David says Europe can suck a yeah. Yeah, having winter break is good since we don't have to worry about competing with NFL or college football. But here's another thing too you could do during the winter break if you had to, right? Now some people are saying, but if you do the winter break, these teams are going to be 5-6 weeks off. They're going to be out of form when they come back. Well, I tell you what, why don't we do the Leagues Cup then? Why don't we do Leagues Cup during this winter break and have it in the South in the pods? That way the teams stay in form. That's when Leagues Cup should happen, is during the winter break. That would be the perfect time to do Leagues Cup, is during the winter break when you're off 5 to 6 weeks. Have it in a host city or pod cities, whatever you want to do, and have it played during that time. That's what they should do. That's what they should do. Guys, we have 50 people in the chat. We've only got 27 likes. Let's get to 30 likes. We're only 3 away. Let's try to hit 50 before the end of the stream. I know we can do it. We always get there. Thanks to you guys and your support. Hope you're enjoying the stream as well. Also, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we're 34 away from 6,500. Try to hit that by maybe the beginning of next week. We're also trying to hit 7,000 before the end of the year. With your help, I know we'll do it. And we'll be at 10,000 before you know it, because this channel is growing like crazy thanks to your guys' support. Always appreciate you guys stopping by and joining us for the live streams and supporting the videos. So subscribe if you haven't already and hit the little bell notification so you never miss a video. Timothy Park says, sound like Will should be setting up a meeting with Don Garber. Ah, man. I tried to reach out to MLS Communications back in the summer last year to request an interview with Don Garber. And I've said some, I don't want to say hostile, but I mean, obviously I criticize him and I think it's all fair. And I told them, I said, look, if Don Garber agreed to come on for an episode with me, you could tell me what I couldn't ask him. I'd obviously be very respectful. If there's something he's not comfortable talking about, that's fine. But I was like, I think it's very good to be transparent with the fans. Let me ask him some questions because there's, there's some answers fans want and need. And I think it'd be good. Like, this would be a good thing. Talk about where he thinks the league's going to be after the World Cup, what changes are going to, need to be made, what he thinks the league, honestly, right now, as far as the quality of the league. And if he thinks this league is better than what he expected when he took the job like 25 years ago. There's all kinds of questions you could ask him. Transparency is, the best thing to have, obviously. Davey says, have LA, San Diego, Orlando, Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, and Miami hosting Leagues Cup during the 1 month. Yeah, exactly. There's so many cities that could host it. Even Atlanta, because they have a dome. And it's in the South too, There's so many places that could host it. So many places. Andy says Leagues Cup in the winter break is a no-brainer, and Campeones Cup on June 1st. Or Campeones Cup would probably be better if it was played maybe a week after MLS Cup final, maybe, just because you don't want to step on each other. Nightmare says, do you have the poll on how many owners vote for the proposal change? Because waiting till 2027 is kind of a missed opportunity. Okay, that's another thing too we got to talk about. They're kicking the can down the road. I mean, they said that they're going to potentially do it in 2027, but I don't really understand why it needs to wait that long. You would think you'd want to capitalize. I think they're nervous about how it would play out, because if you do it in 2026, okay, and just being fair here, there's going to be an awkward period, because you can't start your season in February and then start your season in August, right? You would have to do some weird half season or some tournament. So there would be like a 5-month break or some awkward monstrosity of a tournament or half a league season whatever it may be. There's going to be an awkward adjustment period. And Japan's changing to this calendar too, if you guys didn't know that. Japan's changing. And I think that they said they're going to be ready by 2026, 2027, if I'm not mistaken. So it takes time, but it's going to be awkward no matter what. But you just have to pull the Band-Aid off. You just have to pull the Band-Aid off and do it, and then worry about it later. And once it's done, once you're to the new schedule, it's not going to matter anymore. It'll be fine. David Day says NBA set all-time attendance records last year, but the viewership is really bad. Andy says, with calendar change, can we have Campeones Cup 1 week after MLS Cup? I think that would be ideal. Campeones Cup can be played a week before the season you could do it a week before as well. Andy says, I want Campeones Cup a week after MLS Cup, not preseason or winter break. Yeah, I think a week after would probably be best. MLS playoffs drew 650,000 attendance in 2024. That's what they say, but I heard a guy talk about this. He said that he goes to a game at Charlotte, and they say that there's 30,000 people, but then when you look around, there's not 30,000 people. It's more like 20,000 people. So those are tickets sold, but that's not necessarily people that are in attendance. That's just what was sold. Sapporo plays in a dome in Japan. Soccer league. Will New England ever get a stadium? Isn't Kraft like one of the super owners and can get whatever he wants? I mean, I think that that's ideally what they want. They want to have a stadium in Boston. They've been trying to do this for years. I don't know how close they are to doing it, but there's reports that's going to happen sooner than later. And we'll just have to see how it plays out. But I think they'll eventually get one. And yeah, he does have a lot of pull because he's one of the original founders of the league or owners of the league that really helped save it. So we're going to wrap it up here in a little bit. Maybe we'll go 10 more minutes. But I think hopefully you guys, see my point of view of why it would be beneficial to switch the Euro calendar instead of the MLS current schedule we have. It just makes too much sense. It's going to make us a serious league. It's going to make us more desirable of a league. And I think that it's what's going to help us reach our potential. And it's a shame it's not going to happen in 2026. They're just delaying the inevitable. And a lot of people have been pushing for this for a long time. I've wanted this to happen for a very, very long time. Very long time. Because just all the breaks, and like I said, the team's not playing for 7 months is just so detrimental to the certain teams and players not playing for 7 months. Or playing for 7 months, not playing for 5 months in total. Noah says they should do it in 2027, then 2026. Are you saying rather than 2026? David Day says Bundesliga artificially keep ticket prices low to inflate attendances. That's probably true. Wingcake says, I found out that Kraft was in charge of the U.S. World Cup bid and got Gillette Stadium a quarterfinal World Cup game, but he never does much for the Revolution. Yeah, Jonathan Kraft is the one who's in charge of the Revs. I don't know how much Bob has. I don't think he really has much involvement with the the Revs. Adam says, you think they will all agree? Are you talking about the owners? Are you talking about who are you talking about specifically? And he says, can't play Campeones Cup during winter break. If you do Leagues Cup, then preseason would work, but ensures Campeones Cup is a glorified friendly rather than a true championship of North America. Well, when does the, let's look and see, when does is it the Clausura or the Apertura? I can't remember which one starts, which is the second half of the season. Let's see. So it looks like the Clausura is the second half. Okay, when does that end? Let's see when the Clausura ends. Just trying to find where this is, the Clausura. Let's see. Does it say where it ends? When does the Clausura? Maybe I could look up their schedule to see when their last game is. They have a playoff too, don't they? Doesn't Liga MX have a playoff? Let's see here. Okay, so the last regular season game is April 19th, and I think they do a playoff, if I'm not mistaken, like a Liga MX. I want to say their last game is normally like in middle of May, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, okay. So the final of the Liga MX Clausura is played on the second leg is played normally on May the 26th. Okay. So the seasons would essentially be the same with their playoff, with our playoff. It would essentially end at the same time. So they would know their winner. We would know our winner. We know ours June 1st. They would know theirs May 26th. And then, yeah, you play it a week later for that year. I think you should do Campeones Cup. Adam says the Guadalajara derby is determined if Chivas miss out, basically. Wingcake says, you want 2 tournaments in a year or one long one? I heard Liga MX say the short tournaments have made the national team weak and made Liga MX weaker than the Brazilian league. I'm kind of confused on what you mean about the 2 tournaments. The Campeones Cup is just the MLS champion versus the Liga MX champion. Revolution averaged 29,000 in attendance. There's just no way they did. There's no way. Clausura could end up right in time for June Campeones Cup. Yeah, I think it would. Yeah, Apertura, Clausura. I don't know if that hurt it. I mean, it's essentially the Apertura and the Clausura is essentially just taking your season and splitting it into 2 parts. So it is like one season. It's just 2 trophies. I don't know if it's hurt it. I don't know if that's hurt it, honestly. I think a lot of people think that what's hurt Liga MX is getting rid of promotion relegation. Adam says the May 25th Memorial Day weekend is always the final second leg. Yeah, so that would make sense. I mean, you could play that game and then MLS plays theirs June 1st or the first Saturday of June. And then you could play the Campeones Cup the following Saturday. And he says June Campeones Cup, neutral venue, biggest domestic soccer day in North America. I don't know about that. I think CONCACAF Champions Cup would be something. And also you got to keep on that's going to be in June as well. That's going to be in June as well. So we'd have to figure that out. There's a lot of big games. It would get figured out though. There wouldn't be anything too crazy. That they can work their way around it. But yeah, guys, listen. I think that's going to be all. I'm going to end it here. 50 minutes. Appreciate you guys coming on short notice. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope I maybe persuaded some of you that were on the fence about the calendar change. Hope, we talked about Messi signing an extension with Inter Miami. Hope that's going to be good for the league, obviously. Hopefully this calendar change happens sooner than later. And look out for a video on Sunday. I might be dropping a video on Sunday. I'm not 100% sure. We've dropped 4 videos in a row this week, so might take a little bit of a break. Might be Monday until we drop another video. Might be an MLS weekly recap. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you like this video down below. Like I said, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're trying to hit 6,500. We're like 30 away. So subscribe if you haven't already. Trying to hit 7K by the end of April. Share with a friend and hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Until next time, guys, I will see you all soon.